Welcome back, traders and investors. We are going to go from security lending to long term market analysis to trading software. And on the line, we have Raghee Horner here, and she's an active trader. Raghee, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
We're doing good here on this Monday morning. Give us, tell us what you're doing now, a little bit of your market background, your education, and where you're at and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'm a forex trader mainly, but trading forex means you've got to keep an eye on what's happening in the futures markets. And a lot of the positions that I've got on right now are just risk-on plays, taking advantage of some of the pullbacks in the Dow and even the Nikkei. And the other side of that, with the forex mindset, thinking about where can I position myself in the yen or even yen pairs in the forex market. So I kind of have this one mind, many markets approach where I don't want to begin and end everything in the forex, but I like to see where those options can take me into equities or into fees or even the futures.
Okay, funny you mentioned the yen here. We have a couple of active traders in our chat room that are looking at the yen US dollar spread. And could
hmm
you just give us a short term analysis of what you're looking at that right now, as long as a longer term projection?
Sure. So right now in the dollar yen, if you're a risk-on player, if you're thinking that this pullback in the Dow and even the Nikkei is pretty much a rope a dope, and you want to get long the equities markets, that's where you want to start thinking about how can I sell yen. So for me, near term, I'm actually looking to build a position in the dollar yen, getting long on what I would consider to be a fade at some of these range extremes between about 101.20 and 180. So I'm just looking for the market to sink into that pretty narrow 40 pip range and build a long position in there, which would mean on the flip side for yen futures traders, they could actually look for some shorting opportunities.
Okay, all right. And I like the way you said, yeah, you trade the currencies, but you also got to be aware of the dollar and everything that's going on. And you also, you follow the Dow Jones Industrials here, knocking on the door of 17,000. How do you trade the Dow? Do you trade the Dow futures, individual stocks, or options? What's your approach to trading the Dow?
So when it comes to Dow, as soon as I look at the Dow, I want to make sure I'm looking at the Nikkei too, and I'm long both those as of those pullbacks we saw late last week. So when I'm thinking long around the basically 15,150 on the Nikkei futures, I'm long the Dow from the recent pullback at about futures again around 16.7, and that means that also I'm looking for potentially some yen weakness coming with any kind of follow through from there. So as far as, people looking at Forex and if they're all the equities traders or even options traders, you can look at that yen as a risk barometer. I think the gold market used to be what people would look at as a risk barometer, but gold behaves as the currency of the country called Goldtopia anymore. So I really rely much more on the yen to reveal that risk. But you mentioned gold, and I'm actually looking at, and you mentioned options. I'm actually shopping some put options in gold with 1320 to 1324 as a near term ceiling. So I want to get short with some puts here, and I've been doing that in this relatively quiet gold environment we've seen over the past week and a half now.
Yeah, this is a classic goal move here. You had the big rally up, you find a resistance point and bumps his head up against it. I definitely see that 13, 20, 25 area that you're looking at. Four of the last five highs have been within that area, so definitely developing resistance. They haven't. What do you think? They got to take it down under 1300 to really get some good downside action.
Well, if I wanted to play a little bit of exhaustion near term, I'm just looking for a good old overbought market here, which I think we have between 13.15 and 13.20. So if I want to see some good Momo to the downside, absolutely. I think a break of that major psych at 13 would be great. But I think a lot of traders might be tempted to, you might see some bids at that 200 period simple moving average there on the daily around to 1290, 1291. But I think with enough bearish momentum through 1300, I'd love to see this thing sink back down to about 1255, 1258. But that's why I'm playing it with the puts. I mean, we've got the kind of week we've got with NFP on Thursday and a holiday. So rather than actually shorting the GC, I like a little bit of the safety the puts are going to give me.
Okay, and just going back to your yen analysis, how do you exactly does the yen reveal risk to you?
So if I'm looking at the way in which the market rolls over from the Asian session, whatever the Nikkei is doing, I realize that a lot of people might be looking at the yen right now and they see it's just kind of chopping sideways, almost flatlining. And a big reason for that is the Nikkei has been much weaker than the strength we've seen in the Dow. So the yen's having to serve two masters, the risk off in the Asian session and then the risk on here in the U.S. So I realize that yen's going to give me insight into two different financial centers. And because it has been doing that, ultimately it's been going nowhere. But once what we have right now, once we have the Nikkei starting to trend up higher, and that's been a relatively new transition, and now the Dow already in its uptrend, we could see a whole lot more organized weakness in the yen, which is actually confirmation of some risk appetite. And that's what I'd really like to see. But it's all three of those markets. We really can't separate it. Looking at that Nikkei, the Dow, and that Japanese yen.
Okay, little intermarket analysis going on here. Also, I see that you're active in the crude market. Are you doing that through crude futures, crude options? Do you trade the USO? What's your short term and your long term outlook for crude?
Yeah, so crude I've been watching, and in the chat room I do with my people in the morning, they've been asking me, hey, when are we going to grab some crude? And I'm waiting for a pullback to about actually we got it this morning, to about the 104, 104.90, 105 area. But I'd really like to build a position closer to 104 and a half. But I mean, we're talking about 50 cents here. But this is an uptrend, and when I've got an uptrend, I try to pick my spots into logical levels of previous support and build a position there, which is what makes that 105 area so tempting as a near-term swing buy. But again, it's really just a trade. I'm not looking at falling in love and committing to crude for the long haul here. I think it's been a market that has been very difficult for a lot of traders with the whole geopolitical unrest. And we have 110 on the weekly as resistance. So I'm not looking for much more than, say, a move from 105 and stepping out in front of size in front of 110.
Okay, and you're following all these currencies, the U.S. markets, Japanese markets, keeping an eye on things that are going on in China. How do you manage your trading day?
So one of the things that is really nice is that for traders nowadays, we all, I think, naturally are thinking beyond just maybe whatever our primary market is. So equities traders do now keep an eye on, say, Euro yen or Aussie yen. They know what's happening on the yen. I think traders are so much more sophisticated than they were when I first started trading 25 years ago. We have access to so much more. But the real trick is to find that common thread. I mean, a trader in equities could look at Visa or IBM, then look at the Dow, then look at the yen futures, and then yen pairs, and there's this commonality that runs through them. So they're not disjointed markets. I love commodity futures, but I can't draw a parallel between, say, cocoa and what's happening in the Canadian dollar. So you try to keep that one mind, many markets, consistent thread, and then it really doesn't become difficult at all. It's really just watching the dominoes fall when you've got your trading plan working.
Okay, all right. We have Raghee Horner here, and she is talking about trading the Forex markets as well as the Dow Jones futures, a little bit in the gold market. Just to finish things up here, just taking all the factors that you see in the markets, coming to the end of the quarter here. Are you expecting any fireworks here for the end of the quarter window dressing?
I've already got my seatbelt fastened and my Dramamine on my trading desk here because just going into Thursdays, I'm just looking from now to Thursday between the non-farm payrolls, Thursday on an early release.
Right.
We also have the ECB coming up this Thursday. And, the last time the equities markets breathed a sigh of relief is when they knew the ECB and Raghee were on the case. So we're really going to want to see in the follow-up, I think, this Thursday, that during that ECB press conference, Draghi's still basically pushing that same agenda, And I think that's where we're going to get some clarity on the risk front before we go into this 3-day weekend. So everything's kind of a wait and see. And I'm not ignoring, Chairwoman Yellen speaking on Wednesday. I just think it's all eyes on Draghi come Thursday, and then what kind of mood we're in to take positions into the weekend. So kind of wait and see for me, and I think for a lot of traders out there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, your analysis of the markets, and certainly like to have you on again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was a good time.
Okay. Have a good day.